odd turn of events for a cat, but the truth is, Merlin never knew his real mother. They called him Merlin because he appeared to have come to them through magic. Can anybody tell me why I might have talked about Merlin and magic way back?
Merlin the magician?
Exactly, Merlin the magician. As she paused to catch her breath, Merlin told her to grab hold of his tail with her beak. When she did so, he leapt onto the first little breeze that floated by and quickly rose above the treetops, with Guinevere flapping in wonder behind him. Okay, now that's the story of the chicken cat. Now I want you to be honest with me and show me with a show of hands. Who thinks that that is a little bit of a strange story? Who thinks it's a little strange? Tell me what's strange about that story. The cat is flying, right? That is pretty strange, yeah? That he was raised by a chicken and they both flew, yeah? You are right, and not in my world. Cats don't usually fly, you're right. She soared, didn't she? What if I told you guys that the chicken cat was an almost true story? Who would believe me? Okay, it's an almost true story, and I'm going to explain that to you, but I'm going to start by asking you guys this question. What type of cat is this? Okay, I'll let everybody take a look.
Black cat.
An alley cat is a great answer, yeah? Yeah?
He's Tabby.
Tabby, good answer, yeah? What kind?
Chicken cat.
Ah, you get the right answer. This is a chicken cat. That's exactly the right answer. But that's still kind of strange, isn't it? Because Merlin in the story is a chicken cat, and he's this little orange guy, but this guy doesn't look anything like Merlin, does he? So they came in, they had no idea what it was. They opened up the box, and there's this tiny little gray kitten looking at them. The first thing they said was, "Aww," and the second thing they said was, "P.U." Why do you think they said P.U.? So what did he smell like, do you think? Yeah, or he smelled like a chicken. He smelled like a chicken. Yeah, he smelled like a baby and he smelled like chicken. So we would joke as a family that maybe this cat was raised by a chicken. It's not just your average tabby cat. There is something different about what he is. Who's seen the movie Cats and Dogs? You know that little gray cat in Cats and Dogs, the little Russian cat? Okay. At first, we thought Merlin was that kind of cat, a Russian blue. But the point is, where did Merlin come from? His mother wasn't at the barn. The farmer didn't even know he was there. There's this little cat there who's not just an alley cat. He's actually a special kind of breed of cat. And he just appears in the barn like magic. So we used to say these stories to our family. We would make fun and say that our cat had a chicken for a mother, and he appeared out of nowhere. So you can start to see where some of the ideas, some of the crazy ideas for that story came from. And here's a picture. That's Merlin. Now you see that sound? Hear that sound you're making? That was the sound my kids made when they opened the box and saw Merlin's picture. What's different about that copy of the chicken cat? Make sure everybody gets a chance to look. Can you guys see that from back there? Okay. You? The words are different. You can tell me why the words are different. Good guess. It's actually Korean. So this is a Korean copy. Here's another copy of the chicken cat. You can tell me what is special about this copy of the chicken cat. Yeah? It's Braille, right? Do you guys know what Braille is? Yeah? You? Exactly. This is Braille. So if somebody's blind and they can't read the words with their eyes, they can read them with their fingers. So I have some poems that I wrote when I was little, when I was 7. And I was writing about cats and frogs even back then. Would you like me to read you some of my poems from when I was? Okay, here's one what about a cat? It's called the cat. Once there was a cat who was very, very fat, wore a hat, liked to chat. Now what do you think of that? Or the rabbit. Once there was a rabbit who had the funny habit of hopping up and down just like a toad. Okay, here's a good little, a little bridge into Leon. Here's two little poems that I wrote about frogs when I was young. Let's see. All right, the first one is called The Frog Who Acted Like a Dog. Once there was a frog who acted like a dog right at the last moment of his days. At the last moment of his time, down came a great big chime and knocked him over plunky lay dead. Or how about the frog? Once there was a great big frog, next to him an even bigger frog. The first frog turned into a pig, the second a hog, the pig did a jig, the hog did a jog, and that is the story of the pig, hog, and frogs. Those are pretty silly, aren't they? But you know what? You've got to start somewhere, right? And you guys, I'm sure, can write better stuff than this. So if you want to grow up to be a writer, I'm sure you have a great chance to do that. Orlando was a handsome frog. He was sleek and smooth and rather imposing. Leon stared at his own reflection, which was bumpy and kind of fat. He smiled again. Beauty was Leon's gift, and he was all right with that. Out of nowhere, Leon found his voice. Though cracked and dry and uneven, his song was loud and passionate, filled with a commanding urgency. It was the biggest sound the pond had ever heard. I don't have a frog named Leon at home, although I did used to collect frogs and tadpoles when I was younger. Anybody do that? Collect pollywogs, tadpoles? But you know, I wanted to make sure that my story made sense. And I wanted Leon to be old. So I looked up on the internet to try and figure out whether frogs could live that long. And they can. It's not common, but frogs could live that long. But that made me ask a question. You know how cold it gets in the winter and how you bundle up with boots and mitts and hats and coat to stay warm. So, well, my question was, what happens to frogs in winter? So what I'm going to do is a little quiz with you. And I'm going to give you some possible answers, and you're going to vote and tell me which one you think is the right answer. Start with water frogs like Leon, or aquatic frogs. So here's three possible answers. One, they hibernate on the pond bottom. Now, that's a possibility because a lot of creatures that you know about hibernate. So that's one possibility. Or B, they swim south to warmer waters. Well, that could happen, right? Birds fly south in the wintertime. So maybe all the frogs hop to Florida, right? Or C, they freeze inside the ice. Maybe if you walked out to a pond near your house in the wintertime and you cleared away the snow, maybe you'd see all these little frogs frozen in the water or in the top layer of the ice. So who thinks A, they hibernate on the pond bottom? Who thinks B, they swim south to warmer waters? And who thinks C, they freeze inside the ice? Okay, well the correct answer is A, they hibernate on the pond bottom. But let me tell you some things maybe you didn't know. What they do is they burrow in the soil at the bottom of the pond. Now how fast is your heartbeat? It's fast, right? Like maybe once a second or a little faster, 60 or 70 times a minute. When a frog is hibernating in the winter on the bottom of the pond, do you know how fast his heart beats? Once every few minutes. So think how slow that is. If you look at the clock and you watch the second hand go around 2 to 3 times, the frog's heart would beat once in all of that time, so very slowly. Now, if they crawl or swim at all, they do so in slow motion. You guys seen the trailer for the movie Hoodwinked? I don't think that movie's out yet. But I think it's funny, that part where they say, run, and the little turtles are getting ready to run, and you think they're going to go really fast, but they go in really slow motion, right? Well, that's what the frogs would do on the bottom of the pond. Tree frogs? Yeah, he's asking how many different kinds. And I don't know, but I know there's a lot of different kinds. Okay, good. Yeah? Yeah.